Hi, everyone. I appreciate you all being here this evening. I am Samantha Kolke, and I am the Director of Programs and Services at Center for Independent Futures. And tonight's webinar is titled, Let's Talk About Supported Decision-Making in Illinois. Before I introduce our presenters, I want to take this opportunity to briefly share a bit about CIF. So we're a nonprofit organization based in Evanston, committed to meeting the needs of disabled individuals to achieve independence to lead fulfilling lives. We support individuals' hopes and dreams using our person-centered approach to enhance independence through one-on-one coaching, experiential learning, and shared activities. We, outside of direct services with participants, we also offer consulting services. Our My Full Life digital platform offers a comprehensive, ready-to-use resource for life skills education and curriculum. The platform is user-friendly. It was just relaunched after after it was updated and upgraded. And so it's user-friendly and visually engaging, and it enables instructors and learners to easily access tools, set goals, and track progress. We also offer a 4-series workshop called New Futures Initiative that offers family groups and organizations a step-by-step process to create their own supported and creative housing solutions. I will include links to more information about these programs in the chat. And now, for the reason that we're all here, CIF is thrilled to be partnering with the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance to present information about the relatively new Illinois Supported Decision-Making Act and what supported decision-making is and why it is critical to consider and maybe the best option for you and your loved one. The Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance, known in short as the Alliance, works to make life better in disability communities and to make services better for people with disabilities in our state. The Alliance's focus is to empower people to speak up and speak out about what they want and need and what they don't want or need, action plan their goals, and participate in advocacy at the personal, community, and statewide levels. This work is done through education, providing trainings like this, and individualized mentoring. I'll also be including a link to their website in the chat. So our presenters this evening are Adam Weiser, the project director for the Alliance and self-advocate who is working with me to reignite a disability rights and advocacy group for participants at CIF. Adam was the ARC of Illinois Self-Advocate of the Year in 2022, and he specializes in empowering other self-advocates to speak up and speak out and presents regularly as a content expert for the Alliance. We have Krescene Beck. She focuses her work on organizational advocacy support for the Alliance. She spent more than 17 years working on statewide grants focused on self-advocacy and on building collaborations to better respond to people with disabilities who experience violence. Krescene specializes in creating opportunities for self-advocates to find and use their voices to live their best lives. And we have Teresa Parks. She is the Deputy Director of the Illinois Guardianship and Advocacy Commission, as well as Director of the Commission's Human Rights Authority. She serves on the board and education committee of the Illinois Guardianship Association. She's an appointed member of the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities and is a trustee for the Center for Guardianship Certification. She has also served on various local and regional disability-related boards and committees. And to summarize, we are about to hear from incredible experts who lean into the disability mantra of nothing about us without us. So there may be a time at the end for questions. So if you have a question, please type it into the chat and we'll respond after the presentation. And if there's not enough time, then I will send out responses via email after the presenters have an opportunity to look at the questions and write a response. So now I am honored to introduce introduce Adam Weiser, Krescene Beck, and Teresa Parks.
Thank you so much. This is Krescene. Teresa, Adam, and I are going to turn our cameras off to increase accessibility during the presentation. I am going to be sharing my screen. If seeing movement on the screen is bothersome to you, I will have you start looking away, and then I will let you know when you can return to looking at the screen. So again, if looking at a screen that is moving around as I get things into place is bothersome to you, go ahead and begin looking away now. One moment here. All right. Continue to look away. All right. You are welcome to return back to your computer screen or tablet or cell phone, however you are joining us today. Adam, go ahead and start.
Let's learn about support decision-making in Illinois.
We are thrilled to be part of Center for Independent Future's Spring 2025 webinar series.
Today's presentation is brought to you by the Illinois Guardianship Advocacy Commission and the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. Hi, I'm Adam Weiser, and I am part of the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa Parks, and I am with the Illinois Guardianship and Advocacy Commission, and I'm pictured here with my wonderful son, Nathan.
And my name is Krescene Beck, and I work with Adam at the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance.
I'm going to start out with a very basic overview of the Illinois Guardianship and Advocacy Commission. It was our agency that initiated the proposal, the legislative proposal that became the Supported Decision-Making Act. Our agency is a state agency. We have offices across the state of Illinois as designated by the stars on this map, including administrative offices in Chicago and Springfield. And all of our programs support people with disabilities in different ways. And here are our programs. We are the state guardian in Illinois, and we're considered the guardian of last resort for adults with disabilities. And by that, I mean we don't get appointed guardian unless the court somewhere in the state determines someone needs a guardian and there really isn't anyone available or appropriate to serve as that individual's guardian. We are guardian for about 5,000 individuals across the state of Illinois. We also put forth information on our agency website about adult guardianship, and we sponsor a guardianship training module for newly appointed guardians, which really is now a requirement here in the state of Illinois, unless the court waives that requirement. We also have a legal advocacy service staffed by attorneys and paralegals where we provide legal advice and representation for both children and adults with disabilities. Most often, we are representing individuals who are facing some type of involuntary mental health proceeding, such as involuntary commitment to a mental health facility or court-ordered treatment, usually psychotropic medication treatment. Our attorneys represent those individuals to help ensure their due process protections during those proceedings, much like a public defender would in another kind of case. We also assist individuals with setting up advanced directives like powers of attorney. And there's a newer type of power of attorney here in Illinois called a mental health treatment declaration, which is a power of attorney for mental health related or behavioral health services. Our attorneys are available to assist with setting those up as well. Our Human Rights Authority investigates allegations of rights violations committed against people with disabilities by disability service providers. We go into all kinds of disability service settings from state-operated facilities, group homes, community centers, hospitals, nursing homes, vocational programs, special ed programs, and unfortunately even jails, because sometimes people with disabilities interface with the criminal justice system. And if we do find a rights violation, we work with that disability service provider to make improved rights protections in their settings. What's unique about this program is that we have regional boards of individuals who serve voluntarily to review these rights issues and cases. And I say that because we're often looking for people to serve on our regional panels. So if anyone out there might be interested in this type of volunteer work, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact me directly. Last but not least is our Special Education Advocacy Initiative, which is a collaboration between our Legal Advocacy Service and our Human Rights Authority. And in that division, we provide Illinois families with a resource to turn to for special ed questions, issues. We assist with IEP meetings. We provide advocacy, and we do have limited ability to provide legal assistance with due process and mediation. Under our enabling legislation called the Guardianship and Advocacy Act, we can also recommend legislation. And most of our proposals come directly from our work where we encounter a gap. It might be a gap in rights protections, a gap in services, or maybe some reoccurring issue that never seems to get resolved. And it seems that some type of public policy reform is needed. And that's kind of what happened with our supported decision-making proposal. We were hearing about situations where people were being appointed a guardian when maybe they didn't need a full-fledged guardian. We were hearing from family members, and Krescene and I were just talking about this, where they were told by their special education program as their child with disabilities was reaching the age of 18 that they should go downtown or go to court and become guardian for their children with a disability. But many of these families came to us asking questions and wondering, you know, they weren't sure that their child needed a full-fledged guardian as they reached the age of 18, but there was really no other option. So we started doing research on the concept of supported decision-making, looked at other state statutes, created one that we felt fit with Illinois' needs. And the legislation really, it sailed through the House, the Senate. It was signed into law by the governor, Governor Pritzker, in 2021 with an effective date of February of 2022. So this act has been in place for about 3 years now.
Now we have an opportunity to learn about supported decision-making and how it differs from guardianship through this video. And you will meet an amazing advocate named Ricky Broussard. And Ricky comes to us from Disability Rights, Texas.
What is supported decision-making? A message from Disability Rights, Texas.
Hello, my name is Ricky Broussard, and I'm at Disability Rights, Texas. I'm here to talk to you today about supported decision making.
Supported decision-making is a way for people with disabilities to keep our rights and make our own choices with help from others instead of having a guardian who makes decisions for us. Guardianship.
People say guardians make it easier, but once you have a guardian, that guardian has control over you. A guardian is decided by a judge, and you do not have control over any important decisions that need to be made. It shouldn't be that way because it's about the individual's life. It's not about their life.
Under guardianship, you can lose the right to choose where you live, how you spend your money, who you spend your time with, and other important decisions. Supported decision-making.
Supported decision making, it's all about the individual. It helps us make the right decision for ourselves in our life. If you need help making decisions, choose someone that you trust. It doesn't have to be a family member. It could be somebody at school you trust or somebody at work you trust. After you choose somebody to support you, you tell them what you need support on and how they can help you. Some of the things that your supporter can help you do is going to the grocery store or make medical decisions or with where you live, or they could help over your finances. In my support team, I let everybody know, okay, this is what I need decisions on, and this is what I need you to help me with. After I hear the pros and cons of the decision, that's when I make the final decision on whatever choice I make. We all need help to make decisions. We have to make decisions every day. Your rights should not be taken away just because you need help.
And again, we thank Ricky Broussard from Disability Rights Texas for sharing a bit with us about supported decision making and how it differs from guardianship.
I'm going to share just a basic information about the Act, starting out with the overall purpose of supported decision-making. And that purpose is to recognize a less restrictive alternative for adults with intellectual or developmental disabilities who need assistance with decisions regarding daily living. So 2 key words I want to point out here. This only applies to adults age 18 and older, and only to adults who have intellectual or developmental disabilities. And it's intended to provide that alternative to guardianship for people who just need a little bit of help with decision making, like we all do from time to time. But the Act provides some structure as well as some protections for people with disabilities. The Act has several components, although it's not long, but it does address these key areas. It incorporates some guiding principles, as well as a presumption of capacity statement. It describes what a supporter can and cannot do. It incorporates into the legislation a model or sample supported decision-making agreement, which according to the Act must be substantially followed. It addresses how supporters can access information surrounding a decision. It includes ways in which to end an agreement or a supported decision-making arrangement. And it includes resources for reporting abuse, neglect, and exploitation should someone have concerns about the supporter's role in the situation.
And I'll be sharing a general description of supported decision making. An adult, again, age 18 or older, with an intellectual or developmental disability, that individual is called the principal. The principal identifies a trusted supporter in their life, who could be a relative or a friend, to assist in certain areas of life that they choose. And that could be medical, financial, living arrangements, work. We're going to talk about that when we share the actual supported decision-making document. The supporter arrangements are put into a written supported decision-making agreement, and both the supporter and the principal sign that agreement in front of 2 witnesses. The supporter helps the principal with the decisions on the identified areas of support. The principal always makes the final decision, and a principal can act independent of that supported decision-making agreement if they choose to. So, Adam, would you share some of the guiding principles of the Supported Decision-Making Act?
All adults should be able to live in a manner of one's own choosing. All adults should be able to participate in decisions regarding their own lives. Adults who need assistance should receive the most effective and least intrusive assistance. When providing assistance to another, the person's values, beliefs, cultural traditions should be respected.
And what about the presumption of capacity?
The Support Decision Making Act emphasizes that all adults are presumed to have the capacity to make their own decisions unless otherwise determined by a court. Capacity is not voided simply because of a person's disability, the manner in which a person communicates.
And would you share some of the duties that a supporter does?
Assist with understanding information about a decision. Help access information about a decision. Assist with appointments. Track services. Determine the principal's decisions. Assist with communicating the principal's decisions and advocating for the principal wishes and decisions.
And what about access to information?
A supporter can only access information with the principal's consent and is proved under the agreement. The supporter must keep information confidential. The principal can still access information without the supporter. Releases of information may be needed for a supporter to access information.
As we have been rolling this out, we have found that most providers will prefer that there be a release of information form in place to allow a supporter to access information about the principal, about the person with disabilities, and that the supported decision-making agreement form on itself will not allow for that access to information. Any release of information form used should be very specific, and it should be related to the areas of support in the agreement form. That release of information must be signed by the principal and witnessed by someone other than the principal, or witness someone who observes the principal signing it. And we recommend that someone other than the supporter serve as the witness on the release form. Our agency has created 2 sample releases of information forms, one for school records, which has some very specific criteria, and then another release for everything else. These forms can be downloaded and printed off of our website. However, it's very possible that any service provider involved in a situation might have their own release of information form that they would want the principal to sign.
Just as Adam shared what the duties of a supporter are, I'm going to share some things that a supporter cannot do. They cannot exert undue influence or force a principal to make a certain decision. They also cannot make a decision for the principal. Supporters cannot access information about the principal unless authorized to by the principal or the agreement. They also cannot access information unrelated to an identified area of support. They cannot be paid for being a supporter, and they cannot work for the principal unless they are family. So who can be supporters? Well, I'm going to share who supporters cannot be. Supporters cannot be a current teacher involved in the principal's education. A supporter cannot be a person who is an employee or an employer of the principal unless they are an immediate family member. They cannot be a person providing paid support services unless they are an immediate family member. And we know that there are family members who are paid to provide support to adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Supporters cannot be a person who works for an agency financially responsible for the care of the principal. Supporters also cannot be a person who is listed on the healthcare registry. So a person who has a finding of abuse, neglect, or financial exploitation. Supporters cannot be a person who has a court order prohibiting contact with the principal. And a person who has been convicted of certain crimes cannot be a supporter. And those crimes include sex offense, aggravated assault, fraud, theft, forgery, and extortion. The relationship between a supporter and a principal is one that is based on dignity and respect and trust and equality. And so some specific questions a supporter might ask a person, a principal who wants to enter into a supported decision-making agreement might include the following. A potential supporter could ask the individual, what are your strengths? What are you good at? You may want to ask, what are your needs? What do you need help with? Another question, what help would benefit you the most? Is it looking things up on the computer? Is it helping you list out pros and cons? Is it acting out various situations and decisions? Is it communicating with a physician? Another question, what role do you want me to play in decisions? Understanding that the supporter cannot make the decision for the principal. What things do you want me to do on your behalf? And I like this last question. What things do you not want me to do? Oftentimes, it's easier for us to say, I don't want you to do these things, than it might be to say, I want you to do these things. Again, that relationship is very important.
Also, there are ways in which the supporter should involve the principal as they act in the supporter role. For example, they should make sure that the principal understands all that they're doing on the principal's behalf, what they have done, what they're thinking about doing. Any information that the supporter obtains regarding a decision should be reviewed directly with the principal. Both the supporter and the principal should inform any involved service providers about the supported decision-making arrangements, the supporter's duties, and emphasize that those final decisions still are made by the principal. And as much as possible, the principal should be present when any information is gathered or when decisions are communicated. We have here a sample supported decision-making agreement form. This is taken out of the statute. We've created the standalone form that's available on our website. And any entity, agency that receives a copy of this form are to follow it, rely on its contents, unless the principal tells them otherwise, that they do not want them to follow the form. The form starts out with some basic definitions. It includes some overarching duties of the supporter. For example, they're to act in good faith, act within the authority of the agreement, act loyally without self-interest, and avoid conflicts of interest. Page 1 of the agreement also requires the supporter to list their name and contact information. The second page of the agreement is kind of the meat of the agreement. This lists the various areas of support. Maybe the principal wants help with basic needs like food, clothing, shelter, or helping with medical decisions or behavioral health related decisions. Maybe they need assistance with financial decisions or applying for public benefits or with work related decisions. Maybe assisting with living arrangements. Perhaps they would need assistance with school-related decisions. It could be that a person at age 18 may still be in public school, or maybe they're in college, and maybe they would like assistance with those school-related decisions. Or maybe they just need help with from the supporter in advocating for the principal's wishes. And then also included is a space for other types or other areas of assistance. Now, the principal might initial one area as an area needing support. They might initial a couple of areas. They might initial all of the areas if that is the level of support that they want from the supporter. And from those areas where they do not want the supporter's assistance, it's recommended they put NA for not applicable. The middle page of part two, the middle of part two, page two, sorry, emphasizes that the supporter is not allowed to make decisions for me, so that anyone who receives a copy of this document understands that the principal still makes their own decisions. And we've also included here the kinds of things that the supporter can do, again, emphasizing the duties of the supporter to help access information, help understand options regarding a decision, or help communicate a decision if needed. And then the bottom part of page two talks about the kinds of information the supporter might be able to access. But again, a separate release of information will probably be required. The last page of the agreement form is the signature page. This is where the principal, both the principal and the supporter sign in front of two other adult witnesses. And we've included on this last page also resources for reporting abuse, neglect, or exploitation should someone have concerns about the supporter-principal relationship. As we've rolled out supported decision-making and tried to educate the public, a lot of questions come up about protections of the individual. And we believe that there are some safeguards in place within the Act and with the agreement form that help protect the principal's choices and hopefully protect against potential abuse. For example, the legislation, as does the agreement form you just saw, emphasizes that principal still makes all of their own decisions. The agreement form documents exactly what the supporter can and cannot do, the areas of support that the principal wants their assistance with. The legislation clearly defines the duties, and it's very limited to gathering information, helping weighing options regarding a decision, such as risks and benefits, and also help communicate a principal's decision if needed. Some additional safeguards also include the fact that there are supporter disqualifications. Not everyone can be a supporter, and we believe that's a protection. And then also incorporating abuse reporting mechanism is also a safeguard. And then finally, another safeguard is the fact that the principal can end the agreement, the supported decision making arrangement, at any time.
Teresa mentioned that one of the safeguards is that the principal has the power to end the agreement at any time. And this can be done in several different ways. The first is simply tearing up the agreement. The principal can also ask somebody else to tear up the agreement in front of them. The principal can sign and date a statement that they are ending the agreement. They can say they want to end the agreement in front of two people who would serve as witnesses to that statement. The supported decision-making agreement would also end if there is a finding of abuse, neglect, or exploitation by the supporter. And it would also end if there is a restraining order against the supporter by the principal. The supporter can also end the agreement as well. And while it is not outlined the way that this should or could happen in the Act, we really recommend that the supporter give the principal notice. And a 2-week notice is what we would really hope would happen. And this notice would allow time for that principal to consider, do I still need this level of support in this identified area or identified areas? And if they do, allow time for the principal to start to engage other people with whom they might enter into a supported decision-making agreement.
Our agency has a host of resources available on a supported decision-making page on our website. We've got a brochure that succinctly describes supported decision-making, and that's available in English and Spanish. We have developed training, plain language training with the help of the Self-Advocacy Alliance, specifically for people with disabilities who may be considering this type of assistance. We have also created training for supporters that issues a training certificate at the end. We've created fact sheets about supported decision-making. We have that standalone supported decision-making agreement form, as well as the sample releases of information form. And we've also created some frequently asked questions, some of which we'll go over later in this presentation. I've included here a link to our webpage, the supported decision-making webpage, as well as to the National Center for Supported Decision-Making that also has a lot of great information. And this is what our webpage looks like.
Support decision-making in action.
Now we have an opportunity to meet a self-advocate named Will McMillan, who lives in Tennessee and who uses supported decision-making.
Supported decision making is that you are making decisions, but you also are actually getting help from other people.
One of the most important things about being human is feeling that you have control over your life and that you understand and feel good about what decisions you're making.
Decisions I would make on my own would be deciding what I want to eat and also check my mail when I need to. Check with friends, my parents, and my siblings.
We all use supported decision making. Every time you ask for advice from a friend, family member, you may ask advice from a professional when you're making a medical decision.
Some decisions I need help with. Who do I ask that help me make decisions on my own? Would be my peers, my parents, and friends in the community. I live with people that I trust and care about me. Some decisions I like to get help with would be definitely medical decisions. Sometimes you may not know what they are, and that there's always good people that can help. My mom helps me make decisions on talking to my doctor. She helps explain what's going on. Making decisions to live on my own is important. I prepare for myself for work. I have my clothes that I can lay out on my bed, and I make that decision on my own to do that. I might make mistakes, but I learn to pick myself up and keep going. My mistake would be drinking too much caffeine. I had to learn to cut back. I'm learning how to cook. So I get to find my own recipes. I find my own meals, or I actually have meals that are left over from dinners or lunch. It feels great that I can live on my own and have my freedom.
Whether we have a disability or not, very well-intentioned supporters can sometimes make decisions about our life or try to really influence decisions about our life.
It's your life. When I make a tough decision, it would be something that might be hard and a challenge, but I'm up to the challenge. But like I said, you have a group behind you. The reason why you have that support group is because they know what you want and they'll like to help support you. If you need help making decisions, go to your full support team and they will have your back.
So again, that was Will McMillan from Tennessee sharing how supported decision-making works in his life. When we talk about decisions and choices, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the dignity of risk. And that is respecting a person's autonomy and self-determination to make choices for themselves. It's about giving people place and space to take risks that go along with ordinary life. And those risks and choices are necessary for personal growth and development. The dignity of risk is also about providing support based on a person's interests, abilities, and needs. And mistakes equal experience. Adam, would you share 10 tips for supported decision making?
Give people time to think about what a question means to them and say things in their own words. Give people the chance to ask about something that they don't understand before you explain it to them. Make sure all facilitators know their roles and give each other time to do their parts. Be prepared to do role play to help explain things on the agreement form. Keep track of time and don't spend too much time on one thing. Focus on support for deciding things, not for doing things. Spend more time talking about who could be good supporters and what supporters look like. Make sure people talk about the support that they want in the future, not just the support they are getting now. Talk about how the person will use the agreement in their lives and try to educate them about other ways they could use it too. Share examples from your own life about the hard decisions you made with support.
Whether someone uses a supported decision-making agreement or has a legal guardian or no guardian at all, we think these 10 tips for supported decision-making are tips that you could use in your everyday life. Adam, would you take us through supported decision-making in action?
Tony wants a supporter to help him with medical decisions and paying bills. Tony has an older sister named Mary. Tony really trusts Mary and talks with her about being his supporter. Mary hasn't been convicted of any crimes that would prevent her from being a supporter. Mary agrees to be Tony's supporter. Tony fills out the support decision-making agreement. He initials medical and financial assistance for his areas of support. Tony and Mary sign the agreement, and their mom and dad signs the agreement as the witnesses. Tony has a doctor's appointment. The doctor wants Tony to change medicine. Tony tells the doctor he wants to talk to his supporter first. Tony signs a release of information so that Mary can look at his medical records to help him get information. Mary helps Tony learn about the new medication. Mary also helps Tony write a list of questions to ask the doctor. Tony will decide if he wants to take the new medication. After a few years, Tony learns how to take care of his medications and pay his bills without Mary's help. Tony decides he wants to end the agreement. Tony thanks his sister Mary for helping him learn about his medical and financial needs. Tony tears up the agreement. The goal of SDM is to recognize a less restrictive alternative for adults with intellectual or developmental disabilities, IDD, DD, who need assistance with decisions regarding daily living. The SDM Act emphasizes that all adults are presumed They have the capacity to make their own decisions, unless otherwise determined by a court. Capacity is not voided simply because of a person's disability, the manner in which a person communicates.
I'm going to go over just a few questions that we have repeatedly encountered as we share information about supported decision making. One of those questions is whether or not the form found in the legislation has to be used. The Act, the Supported Decision Making Act, does not specifically require the use of the exact form, but any form used must substantially follow the legislated form. So we have a sample form. There might be some other examples out there, but any form used should substantially follow the form found in the legislation. And this is very similar to sample forms used in the Power of Attorney Act, for example. And we found that many states that we researched had a sample form contained within their legislation. Another question, and that has come up, is whether or not the form has to be notarized. We actually had that in the original version of the statute, but disability advocates came to us and said, hey, you know, it's not easy for us to track down a notary. So we removed the notary requirement and substituted it with the two witness signatures. And of course, those witnesses must be different than the supporter or the principal. Now, I have heard that some families have gone ahead and gotten the form notarized anyway, just because they felt like it would be taken more serious, but it's not a requirement. Another question is whether or not you have to have some kind of physician statement to enter into a supported decision-making arrangement. No, there is no requirement that the individual have some kind of physician statement regarding their capacity. That's a requirement for guardianship hearings, but not a requirement for supported decision-making. It does not go through a court process, a legal process. It's an agreement between two individuals, much like a power of attorney document is an agreement between two individuals. And then another question is whether or not an individual can have more than one supporter. There's nothing in the Act that would prevent an individual from having more than one supporter. Maybe there's a family friend who is an accountant who might be a good resource for financial decisions. Maybe there's a family member who's a medical professional who might be a good supporter for medical decisions. Whatever the case, there should probably be two separate agreement forms for each supporter, and those supporters should have very distinct and separate supporter responsibilities to help avoid any conflicts. And then another question that has come up is whether or not you can identify a backup supporter, say that the supporter becomes ill, is not available. And again, there's nothing in the Act that would prevent a principal from identifying a backup supporter, perhaps an addendum to the supported decision-making agreement form. I have here contact information for our agency, a toll-free intake line. We answer questions about guardianship, supported decision-making, disability rights. We have a website that goes into all of our programs, and here is my email address. You're welcome to contact me at any time with any questions.
And universal design support for the development of this presentation was provided by the Alliance. On this slide, we share our website information, also our email information if you want to reach out, connect with us that way. You can find us on Facebook, and we have a YouTube channel. For either Facebook and or YouTube, just search for Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. I will mention that we recently uploaded to our YouTube channel this presentation that was done completely in Spanish. These slides are in Spanish and the presenters are speaking in Spanish. If that is a resource or a webinar presentation that you would like to check out, go to our YouTube channel. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so we can all look at each other, or you can see us as the presenters.
Thank you. So I do have a couple questions in the chat. So one is, so a person wrote, our guardianship for our son was done in New Jersey. We have now been in Illinois for 21 years. We have used a special needs law firm in Buffalo Grove, and they asked them the necessity of changing guardianship. And from what I understand, like changing guardianship to the state of Illinois, and was told that they should keep what they have until or unless, quote unquote, push comes to shove in changing it as far as a legal document. So I believe the question is whether it's a necessity to change, you know, if you have guardianship and maintaining guardianship is what is desired, then does it need to change to the state of Illinois from another state?
I can try to address that. I am not an attorney, but I do know many times when people when move, that they often establish the guardianship in the county of residence. Sometimes that can be recognize a guardianship established in another county in Illinois can be recognized in a different county through some paperwork and transferring the guardianship to a new county. And I would think something similar could happen when a guardianship is established out of state. There are some across state lines situations that could be looked at, but many times people try to establish it in the county of residence.
And I will say, Chris, or Jerry, who wrote the question, our next webinar in a couple weeks is kind of not a follow-up to this, but it is like in conjunction to this. About we're going to have Barry Lowy from the Illinois Guardian, who probably works with Teresa, to talk about guardianship and powers of attorney. So he could also like add some thoughts to that question.
Yeah, he is really an expert in guardianship, so I would save that question for him.
Okay. And then the next question is related to abuse. So if someone were to observe abuse, who can they report it to? The principal may not realize they're being abused.
Yes, and our supported decision-making agreement form does include those abuse reporting. It depends on where someone lives. If they're living in the community, there is Adult Protective Services, and we've included the toll-free number in that. So if someone observes something that is concerning, they can reach out to Adult Protective Services and report it. If the individual lives in another setting that's licensed by the Department of Human Services, like a SILA community integrated living arrangement, or maybe a state operated facility, that can be reported to the Office of Inspector General. So though anyone can file those abuse reports or allegations.
So I don't see any other questions in the chat. But if people have follow-up questions, then you can always email me. I was the one who sent out the reminder in Zoom link, and then I can pass the questions off. And I appreciate you, Adam, Krescene, and Teresa, for spending part of your evening with us. And thank you, everyone here, for joining us this evening. The recording will be emailed to everyone who's registered. And as I had briefly mentioned a few minutes ago, the next webinar in the CIF 2025 webinar series is Thursday, May 1st at 6 p.m. with Barry Lowy at of the Illinois Guardianship and Advocacy Commission on guardianship and powers of attorney. The link to read more about this and to register is in the chat. And I didn't want to interrupt people's questions, so I am going to put these links right now in the chat. So you can all hopefully capture those or click on them. And there was one, there's also, Krescene just answered it. So the PowerPoint slides will be sent, and I'll send that out to everybody along with the recording. You could probably expect that tomorrow is when I'll send that information out. And I just appreciate you all joining us here. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you again, Teresa, Adam, and Krescene.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to present.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Take care. Thanks for everything.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.